This is Gene Montrastelli, and welcome to the Tapping Q&A podcast recorded live to tape from Williamsburg in Brooklyn. This is episode 511, originally aired June 9th, 2021. Hi everyone, I hope this finds you well wherever you are and whatever time of day you get a chance to listen to this. Thanks for spending a little time with me today. Today we're going to have a conversation about how our history as tribal people and the way that that particular experience informs our ability to live authentic lives today. And there's a really specific direct connection. This has been coming up a lot with my clients. And so I thought it'd be good and useful for us to talk about it as giving you one more thing to investigate when you are trying to take action more efficiently. Before we do that, two quick announcements. First of all, we have a free 10-part guide on how you can use tapping to eliminate self-sabotage. All you need to do is go to tappingqa.com, click on the big blue button, and you will get that free 10-part guide every single day over the course of the next 10 days. I will teach you one small thing that you can do to use tapping to help you to eliminate sabotage and take action easier. Then at the end of those 10 days, you can take the one or two of them that is most useful for you and use them again and again. Secondly, I want to send a big shout out and thank you to all of the supporters of the Tapping Q&A podcast. Those supporters receive some extra amazing bonuses, as well as the good feeling of knowing that they're supporting this. So you get a chance to listen to it every single time a new episode comes out. One thing that we do every single month is we take 10% of the contributions to support the podcast, and through Kiva, make microloans all over the world. And because we've been doing this for a number of years, and I've done a number of events where I've taught classes and all the money from those classes has gone into Kiva, we have made, as a community, over $13,000 in contributions to support small business owners over the world. That is helping close to 750 small businesses. And the really cool thing is, each time the money is paid back, we get an opportunity to loan the money out again. If you'd like to be a part of this, support the podcast, and receive some really cool, awesome thank you gifts, all you need to do is go to tappingqa.com/support. And once again, thank you to all of those who voluntarily support the show. My friend Jondi Whitis oftentimes says is, at our core, we are herd animals. And we could, have a conversation or a debate about whether or not we're tribal people or herd animals or whatever. But the sentiment is that 7,000 years ago, we were in a situation that the small collection that we were traveling with to ensure our safety. And because of the lack of technology and the dangerous nature of the world, if we were on our own, we would die. Which meant that if we were rejected by our tribe, by our group, and we were pushed out on our own, it was almost certain death. And so that story is still a part of who we are today. These sorts of stories and these pieces of information we can see are passed on not just from the teaching we learn from our community when we are children. We also recognize that beliefs about the world and what is safe and what is not is passed along through our genes. It's passed along epigenetically. And there are two really amazing podcasts, interviews that I did with Mark Wolin about the epigenetics of trauma and how that is passed on and how we can unpack whether or not something is ours or comes from something that is in our genes. I will put links to both of those in the show notes, or if you're listening to this in the website, I will put a link to them in the website as well, so you can hear those conversations. But because we have this lesson that says, if I am pushed outside of the tribe, I will die. Today, most of us are in a situation where that is not true. There are parts of the world, small percentage of the world, but there are places in the world that being pushed outside of your tribe is something that is perilous, that can cause physical harm and even death. But for most of us, we are in a situation where it is not a matter of life and death. And this is also not to diminish, some people did grow up in families where there was such a stern hand that making choices against the family and the family name could create danger and violence. But even if we're not in a circumstance where we've experienced that directly, because we have this story encoded inside of us that says, if I am pushed outside of my tribe, I'm going to die. And what that does is anytime we are in a situation where we want to do something, do a job, move to a city, claim an identity, have a personality, have a disposition that goes against what is typical, and I'm not going to use the word normal, but the word typical for the community that we grew up in, and we start making choices towards that, immediately judgment comes. I can remember the story my friend Catherine Poole telling me years and years ago about one of her kids who was having some trouble at school. And they were asked to draw pictures of the family. And mom was green and dad was purple. And everybody's like, you're weird, because the colors the child was choosing were not the flesh tones of the actual people. And because of that pushback, the child was acting up, and that's the reason why Catherine had to come in. And she made the comment, well, did you ask why my child chose to put the people in those particular colors? And it turned out that her child saw color fields, auras around people, and that's what he was representing in his drawing, was that sense of color that was there. But he was taught very early on that seeing the world in a way that was not typical for the community that he was inside of was dangerous, which led him to act out. For us, oftentimes, what happens instead of acting out, is we suppress that thing that is authentically ourself. And this just doesn't happen to us as children. Now that we are adults, we have been conditioned, because of this epigenetics and because of our culture, that if we go to the beat of our own drummer, we are going to be in a circumstance where that is something that is not safe for us. So if you are in a situation where you would like to make a change in your life, be it where you live, the work that you do, the type of relationship you would like to have or not have, because sometimes choosing not to be in a relationship is something that is countercultural, and you know you want to make the change and you are consistently sabotaging your choices or not following through on the things that you know you can do to make that thing become a reality, it's the perfect opportunity to start asking the question, is the reason why I am not doing this because on a very base level, it does not feel safe for me to go against the grain? And if that is the case, the tapping we do on that is pretty simple and it is pretty straightforward. Basically, everything that I've shared with you today, like when I'm tapping with clients, we tap on exactly that. I recognize the fact that my genetic heritage comes from creatures who believe that if they were pushed outside of the tribe, they would die. And there is a part of me that is trying to keep me safe by keeping me doing the typical thing so I can stay inside of the tribe. I appreciate that this part of me is trying to keep me safe. I appreciate that this part of me is trying to keep me healthy. But I also recognize the fact that I now live in a time and a place where I can choose my own path that is not typical for my situation. And I know people will push back, and I know people will question, but it is safe for me to do that. And so I appreciate the fact that I've been sabotaging myself from taking these actions to keep myself safe. But it is actually safer for me to be my true, authentic self. So something like that. That is, if I was working with a client in real time, that's exactly what our tapping would sound like. I'm just, again, stating what I know to be true about how the subconscious mind works, and then stating the fact that this belief that it has is outdated and it is outmoded, and I can be safe making different choices as I'm doing that. Another thing I might add when I'm tapping on that is I might tap on, just to make it easier, even though I'm choosing to do something new, it doesn't mean that every single choice is going to be dramatic and countercultural right now. That I give myself permission to grow into comfortably claiming this for myself. I give myself permission to choose the time and places that I want to reveal this authentic part of myself. And as I do that, as I become more comfortable in it, as I move forward, it will be easier for me to do it day to day. So that second chunk that we've just added there is our subconscious mind works very much in all or nothing propositions. It's safe or it's not. I'm doing it or I'm not. And what we're saying is, just because I'm choosing to live my authentic self doesn't mean that that shows up at 100% volume every single moment of my day. Even though I am super comfortable inside of my own skin, I'm constantly calibrating the parts of my life and the parts of my personality I share with new people that I meet based on the context, based on who they are, based on how comfortable I feel, based on what I know about them. And so we're still doing that. We're just giving ourselves permission to know it is safer than we think to be our authentic self. And inside of that, we can make new choices. If you're in a situation where there's some choices that you want to be making that is a part of a longing, a calling, your authentic self, that you are not taking those actions, it's a good time to investigate. Maybe the reason why you're doing that is because of this ancient history we have. Take a few moments, tap on it a few moments for a number of days in a row, and you will notice yourself being able to take action more clearly, more crisply, as you are more comfortable inside of your own skin. If you have questions about this approach, I would love to hear them. If you're listening to this in the website, you can just go to the comment section down below, leave a comment. You can always shoot me an email, Gene, Gene, at tappingqa.com. If you happen to be listening to this on the free Tapping Q&A app, if you click on the contact section, it will take you to a place where you can send a voicemail or an email from right inside of the app. If you haven't downloaded the app, you should do that. It's free for both Android and Apple devices. Not only does it have the entire podcast library, it has bonus audios on there, and if we have shared a tapping script inside of one of the podcasts, there is also a text file of that tapping script in the app, so you don't have to hit play. You can just read along and tap along whenever, wherever you are. Again, it is free. If you know someone in your life who would enjoy this conversation that would expand their approach to tapping, or you just know someone who's struggling really being authentically who they are, please pass this along. Even if you send them a note and they don't listen to the podcast, the simple fact you've reached out and said, hey, I know you're struggling right now and I want you to truly be your authentic self. Here's a tool that might help you do that. Even if they don't listen to the podcast, you taking 30 seconds, sending them a message saying you're in their corner for them to be their authentic selves is going to make a big difference for them today. If you haven't done so, subscribe to the podcast. In podcasting parlance, subscribe is always free. You can go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Pandora, Spotify, Audible, Amazon Music, Basic, anywhere you get audio. Just search for Tapping Q&A. If you are on an Apple device and you are very dissatisfied with all the changes in Apple Podcast, might I recommend downloading the Overcast app or the Castro app. Both of them have free versions. I actually use Overcast myself. They're great tools, and you will not miss an episode if you find the Apple Podcast system being a little wonky right now, because it has been a little wonky for a number of months as they've been trying to upgrade their back end and their services. If you have a guest or a topic you'd like us to cover in the future, let me know. Gene, Gene, at Tapping Q&A. You can always click on the contact link on the website. For the Tapping Q&A podcast, this is Gene Montrestelli. I hope you have a great day, and I will talk to you real soon. Bye-bye. The Tapping Q&A podcast is copyright Gene Montrestelli Tapping Q&A. All views expressed by guests are those of the guests and not necessarily of Gene Montrestelli and Tapping Q&A.